What does our garden look like just before winter, at the end of the summer, when everything's done growing? What do we got left? Let's take a quick look. This is a part of our kale patch. Kale plant's still doing very well. I played this mulch down here. This is compost mulch. It's about a couple inches deep, and it goes right down to the top soil of our swales, which has improved significantly. It's still not great, but it's getting better. If I could just get a handful of it here. You can see this was mostly brickish red clay the year that we started this garden. I bet you I won't even see this stuff next summer. This will probably all be right back down to the top soil, which is actually a new incorporation of this and the native soil of the garden, the backyard soil. It looked about like Francis here, a little less handsome, but about that color and strength. Despite the piles and piles and bags of leaves that we deposited onto the surface of this soil last fall, let compost all winter, just left it around as mulch in the spring, we planted into it, here is bare dirt. This is the bare native soil of the garden. Despite all the chop and drop we lay down throughout the season, pulling out weeds and ground cover and just keeping it at a manageable height and laying it down onto the bed, somehow or another we end up with the native soil showing. And this is not good. This is like an open wound right here. It's only going to get worse. The sun will bake it dry and sterile, and the rain will wash off that bare and sterile layer, exposing another layer of somewhat healthy soil to the effects of sun and rain, and the cycle repeats and it just gets gross. So we tend to like to cover that up, but I don't know why here we are seeing it. There you go. Our tomatoes are doing wonderfully. If I liked tomatoes, I would be pretty excited. As it is, we use them for sauce. We have about a dozen jars of sauce put up from these 3 or 4 or 5 plants right here. These are Roma and Amish paste, and they did fantastic this year. You can see they're just about done, but there's still places where they're going. We're looking at one of the most productive members of the 2015 garden, this sunflower. Every bird must have been like, this is the place to be for a week. There were titmice, and there were finches, and I swear if someone didn't let their parakeet out into the yard, come here and eat some of that. This year's fall cover crop is white clover, intermixed with these little bastards. I'm not sure what they are, but they sure choked a lot of our plants out at the bottom garden this year. It seemed to be the ground cover of choice for that area of the garden, and it's just nasty. It's really insidious. It creates like a web. It smells a little poisonous, not poisonous, but you know, that smell like it's not going to let anything else in the garden grow around it. And it definitely choked up our cucumbers. So this is on my list. I think it might be garlic mustard, but I don't know. We have a couple cabbage plants left down here in the bottom of the top garden. But that's pretty much it right now. It's just tomatoes, kale, and cabbage, which is, God bless us, plenty. I just hooked up these 2 cold frames here against the greenhouse. That seems to be the natural place for them to be. Cold frames, hothouse, who knows? Maybe they'll help each other out. I've never shared my shop's front porch, but here is a look at what I came up with for a front porch. I just took old unwanted firewood from down in the bottom garden and sort of arranged it into a somewhat flat stoop little area there. A little step action over here on this side. The kids love it. I love it. It's full of ants and wildlife, and I think this is the last year it's going to be so brown. I think next year this will all be filled in with, you know, how life does, and it will look really gorgeous and feel just right. It's going to hold a lot of moisture for the plants that will grow around it. And that's how you get into the workshop now. It used to be quite a doozy.
Whoa, that's quite a fall out of there, isn't it?
This doesn't look like much. It looks like a bit of a jungle, right? Last winter, actually this January, it was nothing but a pile of firewood. This is kind of like one of those forgotten piles of firewood that were just sort of left around here. I think before Jess and I lived here with Jess's grandmom, they had cleared out the backyard, which was probably like the woods. It was probably woods, and they just made it a yard. They cut a lot of the firewood into piles that they sort of left here because, well, no one lived here to haul firewood.
You did it, Joe! You did it, Joe! You did it, Joe!
So we took this area, which was just firewood, and we converted it to a bean patch. And we've got all kinds of volunteer melons and volunteer brassicas, just stuff that comes out of the compost and worm bin. And it worked out for us. It was a little bit of a bummer in the beginning of the season because we didn't see what we expected as far as growth, but I think the sun sort of moved right around the house in the right way in the later part of the summer, which really gave this area the kick it needed. We got a lot of beans out of here, a lot of them put up and frozen. And this is what we refer to as the bottom garden. Anything past the greenhouse down here is the bottom garden. It's the second half of our garden. And this year didn't work out for us great at all. The year before, it was pretty good. We had a good supply of brassicas and stuff down here. So I didn't consider the drip edge of these trees when I created this bottom garden in my plans. I put this trellis up to house our cucumbers, help our cucumbers climb, and you know, we got 3 sizable plants, but maybe only a dozen cucumbers off of them all together. So we're going to move that type of food production to the top garden this upcoming year, and just keep it down here. Maybe shade-loving things. Maybe throw the whole thing full of comfrey just to keep our green manure supply going. But yeah, some fruit trees perhaps. Our chickens are doing very well. They're a little bit shy, hiding in their house right now. But they love being in the yard. They love getting out of their coop run and just going out in the yard and scratching around in the garden, which is their place. What the? Another one just fell out of the sky, you guys. Pretty little girls, aren't they? I think they're just the most gorgeous chickens ever. You keep your white and red chickens. I'll keep my brown chickens. And that, of course, brings us to our compost, which wouldn't be the same at all if it weren't for the chickens. They make the richest straw. This is my compost thermometer. Pull that out and it feels warm. Compost is working. That's how it works. That's where the technology lies. Chicken straw, man, full of nitrogen-rich chicken manure, which mixes with the carbon-based straw and makes the finest compost. This compost is maybe 3 weeks old. I piled all our chicken straw in here with, gosh, I don't know, leaves and some other garden waste. It's just lovely to not know. Oh, and there were some Easter eggs. Lovely to not know what you put in here, but looking so rich and delicious. I think a plant will love to have this in a few weeks when the rains begin, the November rains, where it's hard to hold a candle, and we both know hearts can change. Well, that about does it for the tour of our garden for the fall season. This is the end of the season for us. Whatever's out here now is going to die, get chopped up, and put back into the soil. Adios, YouTubos. Thanks for watching. Squirrels, you can't bury your chestnuts in my compost and expect to find them next year. Come find it and put it somewhere else.